Yo, JD here, Tyrrell Limits, and as you can see, back on F1 2019, and we are back again with a brand new F1 Esports video. Got a couple more coming out, including this one, and this is from the Baku race, done about a couple of weeks ago now. And as always, once again, thank you very much for David Tonizza, the current F1 Esports champion, for loaning me this footage. I really appreciate it. And you can see on this track of Azerbaijan, it is incredibly hard to hook up a lap, and you can just see the risks that you have to take, how close you have to be to the wall if you want to be at the very top on arguably the most competitive grid that I have ever seen. And it is a joy to watch the guys like David, Jarno, who's now just been announced by Alfa Romeo. He has just come into play, and what we are going to do, we are going to do a side by side against both of our laps. So going in to turn one, let's see, the gear choices are exactly the same, very similar in the way they shift. But coming off this corner, we will be pausing to see who is ahead at certain points. And so far here, you can see Jarno Opmir carrying a considerable amount more speed and is ahead of David. And you can see by the delta, he is in the red, Jarno is in the green, just confirming that. And the braking points again, you can see he is still ahead, braking at the same speed. Going through into sequence of corners, very difficult. Going down to the second gear for that extra rotation going through here. And again, you can see by the gears, pretty much mirroring exactly the way that they shift. Going through this corner, pretty level again, and going to the very tight right before the hardest corner of the track. Going up into castles, so going into here, first gear. I think Jarno uses second at that time, but going through here, let's see if David has made up any time, and yes he has. But again, you can see the speed. Jarno is still carrying a lot more speed, but David has definitely gained some time as he has a little bit of a distraction from the car on the left hand side, but he seems to get quite a smooth exit come off here. And then the downhill left-hander, which you are allowed to cut in esports. You are allowed to cut this. This is an absolutely crucial corner. And you can see now it's David who carries a lot more speed here. Jarno is going quite a bit more on the curb. And you can see David, I think, has just got a much smoother exit coming off this corner. Then onto the final braking zone. And you can see here now, David is earlier on the throttle, less steering angle. He has set himself up much nicer, and this momentum is going to carry down the straight. I think Jarno went a little bit too deep, too much steering lock, and you can see by the speed, David is actually carrying that speed going down the straight, and that is so crucial. You can see David had a purple middle sector, Jarno only a green delta, and you can see now Jarno has actually gained back some time, so kind of confirms that Jarno was probably running a lot more of a less draggy setup. It was very good in the straight line, whereas David had a bit more downforce. And you can see coming across the line, that's the difference between 800ths of a second, and that is absolutely crucial in esports. If you're 2 or 3 tenths away from the pole man, expect to be outside the top 10. That's how competitive it is. But now we are going to ride on board once again for the entire race. And I haven't actually watched this yet from his POV. I quite like to do that. I like to just react to it completely the first time that I've seen it. So we're going to watch this. Obviously, I'll watch the stream itself. But we're going to ride on board and see what it's like coming off from pole position in an F1 esports race, and just the level of consistency and commitment that you still need, because these races are 25%. It's not an endurance, it's a sprint, and if you try and pace yourself, you're probably going to be eaten alive by your competitors around you. So we're riding on board for this entire formation up, and I thought this was quite important as well, just to see how he actually warms up his tyres, because on this game, it's actually quite important that you do that. If you don't warm up your tyres, you're really going to be suffering, especially with the starts, the traction stuff as well. Although saying that, I think there is a glitch start with the lights where some people's lights go out before the others. So I really hope that they do fix that for next game. I've been on the receiving end of that, but also benefited from that as well. But in esports, if you lose positions at the start, it's going to be very hard for you to win the race. And I can't think of the lowest position that someone has started and they've actually won in F1 Esports. I'm pretty sure it's not outside the top 6. I think it's probably always in the top 5. So if you want any chance of winning a race, you're going to need to be in the top 5 because the distances are so short and just a level of competition. We've seen it in all the races before. No one makes mistakes, really, at all. Like, all these drivers are just so impressive, and you need not only the race pace that I feel that I talk about all the time. You need the quali pace, because if you don't have the quali pace, you're going to be horrendously out of position, and your life is going to be extremely difficult. So you can see here, not overheating the tires too much, and I think his AI has now taken over here. I think the right range is really about 90 degrees, something like that. You don't want it to be too hot. It depends on the track as well. Some tracks, like Singapore, you want to keep your tires actually relatively cool, otherwise they will just overheat, whereas other tracks, you really can kind of burn through them to get that extra heat into it. So now, lining up on the grid here, I don't think he's going to be nervous. He is very used to this, and after a couple of inconsistent races at the beginning of these expedition races, David has really become starting to get back on form here. Like at Monaco, he almost won that race. I think he was the quickest man of the day, but now we have 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights waiting for him to go out now, and they go out and he gets a decent-ish start, but Jarno Opmir gets an even better start. He goes hold it round the outside, showing nice respect between the two drivers. And let's see, is he going to fight this? Is he still trying to get into the lead? Yes, he is. He really wants to keep the lead. He doesn't want to concede second place, and that is a smart move, because then he could have been eaten by Lucas Blakely, who again is another driver who has been insanely impressive on his form recently. Jarno, I don't think he was really trying to go around the outside. He was just trying to give himself the good line because he didn't want to run to the back of David, and now that is the job done. And it's all about being consistent now. And I said this before in my other videos I've done in F1 Esports. I can't remember which one I said it in. I think it was Monaco. Now these guys, the 20 guys in here, it's obviously a talent is a big factor, but I think most people in this lobby, if they practice enough, and I'm pretty sure their practice times, they probably could have got pole themselves if they actually put the lap together. So in terms of speed and talent, that's not lacking or anything at all. But what I think really does separate, as I said, the very good players to the great players, the world-class players, if you can even call it that, it's just the composure and just your mentality. It is so important, and I think we see this in sports in general. I think one of the main things is just the mental side of things, and I'd be very surprised. I don't think many teams are doing this, as far as I'm aware. They might be, but I think in the future it's a really worth investing in, like a psychologist, like a sports psychologist for these drivers. If they want to do this as a career, it's all about just executing it when it counts. And I can tell you myself, being a competitive player myself, being an F1 esports driver myself, and being an F1 esports coach, I can tell you the pressure is absolutely insane. And even when I do my normal league races, the pressure there is insane. And my qualifying paces on this game in particular, I don't think has been amazing. It was good at the start of the game because I felt I adapted to it quite well, but it's very hard to execute. And like, if you in practice, when you do times in practice like I've done before and other people, those times would have been good enough for pole, but it's a completely different story when you go into the lobby itself. And that's exactly what I think what separates the likes of David, Jarno, Beresne, Lee, Rasmussen, Lucas. I think guys like that, Kiefer, is just being able to absorb the pressure rather than let it crumble them. I think that is the real big difference. And so far here, David is doing a very good job. He's actually got rid of Jarno's arrow completely. But like we referred to in the qualifying comparison, I don't think he is particularly quick in a straight line. So we might see Jarno's arrow come back into play before he even goes into the braking zone. Let's see if it does. don't think it quite is here, as he sets the fastest lap of the race, and that is immediately beaten by someone else. I can't quite see who it is because his webcam is in the way, but you can see how tightly congested the field is already. You know, no one really spreads out too much in esports because everyone is just so close, and people just don't make mistakes really at all. I very rarely see people make mistakes, and quite a lot of these drivers have already been in F1 esports before, so they know what it feels like to be on the center stage, to be under that sort of pressure where, you know, there's a lot on the line. You're representing an F1 team. You know, you have salaries. If you don't perform, then you could be replaced. No, it's that brutal. It really, really is. But now, I think Jarno's starting to bring himself a little bit more back into it. And you can see again, just the amount of risk that you have to put. You can't relax in these races, in this series. You cannot relax. You can't just coast around and expect to maintain position. You're going to have to push all the time. So like going into this corner, very, very committed it again. And look how close he is to the wall. I think he even kissed the wall then. You know, you have to push all the time. And this is what separates the good from the great again, like I said. But now I think Jarno will probably get DRS here. I think it is activated, maybe even on this straight. And you can see the arrow is very, very visible. Definitely close on last lap. And you can see, I definitely think Jarno Opmir has a better straight line speed. And I think his DRS is open. Yes, it is. Whereas David actually pits. So he goes for the undercut. So the opposite to what he did in Monaco. And let's see if anyone else is going to be pitting behind him, because he could be held. And look, I think he might be held here. I'm not sure if he did, because again I can't quite see the graphic, but it looked pretty clean. In fact, that's the problem if you're in a Mercedes, a Ferrari, a Red Bull at the start of the pit lane. You're going to need good timing, but if you're at the end of the pit lane, more like the Alpha or Williams or something, you can normally get away quite easily without being held here. So he's decided to go for the undercut. He's had a pretty clean pit stop, and now he's just got to push as hard as he can. But he does have the McLaren of Nathan Moore here, so he's got to hope he doesn't catch him in the last sector where he could be held up, because the tyres are still going to be in relatively good condition for the people on the soft. And you can see it's a pretty easy one stop in these races. It always is a one stop. It'd be nice to have a little bit of a different strategy element for the future, not gonna lie, but now he's going to have to push, and I think he's going to time this pretty well. He's going to get the DRS as he makes a little bit of a correction here, but you can see he is definitely pushing pretty hard, putting up into high and rich mix. And let's see, it'd be great if he got the DRS on Nathan Moore, and I think that is probably what he would be aiming to do. So he's going to take a lot of curb here again, always hitting the wall, so you have to take the risk if you want to be rewarded in here. But I don't think he's going to be close enough. There's no way that he is going to be close enough. 1.4 seconds behind Nathan Moore, and you've got Daniel Haddad behind, another driver who is proving to be very, very consistently getting the top 6, top 7. That Racing Point team is looking very threatening for the future series. Actually, they've probably been the most consistent team, I would say, in these pro races so far here. And you can see Nathan has not pitted, and let's see who is that ahead of him. I think that is Lucas Blakely, who was behind him, and he has done the overcut. So once again, Lucas comes out ahead of David like he did at Monaco, and now he's going to get the move done going into the first DRS zone, and that is crucial. He's got a car between him and David Tonizza, so David, he needs to get past him here. He has to get past him. There's no way. He needs to go for a move. So you can see he's setting himself up. He goes down the inside, but McLaren is still trying to go around the outside, and he still going around the outside of him, but luckily he doesn't make it too difficult for him, and he has to stay in this DRS zone. If he doesn't stay in this DRS zone, then it's going to be very, very difficult, because Lucas, I've said again, proving to be one of the very future stars of this series, and he's been so impressive. You can see really, really pushing the car now, completely out wide, and I don't think he is going to be quite in a second, as Fredrik Rasmussen has now retired for the second race in a row. He did it at Monaco. I think he had a collision or something, and I think he's done the same again. I think he hit the castle section. So again, the guy who I considered to be the best, and I still think he is the best F1 2019 driver that I've seen. I'm saying in terms of raw pace and stuff as well. It proves, even if you're an alien, you can make mistakes. That no one is bulletproof in this in this series. You have to be consistent across the board, and that's exactly what David did last season when he did his first season with Ferrari. He was immensely consistent, and he's proving that for once again. But now Jarno has got out ahead of him, so he's been jumped by 2 cars here, and that did not help Nathan Moore in the McLaren. That really did not help the situation. But the good thing for David is that he does have DRS, and fortunately this is a track that you can overtake. On Monaco, not so much, but round here you can certainly overtake. And although he has slightly older tyres, I don't think it's going to make too much of a difference. If it was a 50% race, then I wouldn't say he's in a very good situation right now, but since it's a 25%, I think he's got plenty of opportunities. He got the pole position, proving that he is the fastest man over 1 lap round here. So if he can get ahead of him, but the problem is here, and I've had this in league racing myself, if you're the 3rd man in this DRS train, the guy ahead of you is going to get the DRS from the guy ahead, and he could literally just sit there. He could just completely dictate his position. He could just perfectly sit there and not choose to overtake, or choose not to overtake the leader, and that means David, the guy in 3rd, can't overtake him. And I had this myself in TSRL Spa, Belgium, back a month or so ago, and I had to really force a move because I knew if I didn't get into 2nd place, that's the perfect position to be in at this stage in the race, because David is in a net P3, but he does have his teammate out behind him. So Enzo, who again, a driver who I seriously rate, who's had a little bit of some inconsistent performances recently, it's nice to see him back to form, because I know if this pairing, if they're firing in all cylinders, then it's going to be a very deadly combination here. But there's some people who still haven't pitted out ahead of him, but this is definitely the top 3, a net top 3 here, and you can just see there is not much that David can do right now. He has to rely on Lucas getting a big mistake, because he's not going to overtake Jarno. He can't overtake Jarno unless he makes a mistake or loses DRS or something as well. Jarno could just use the DRS to protect himself against him and just choose to not overtake Lucas. And the problem is that David is too far behind Lucas, because the gap is just too big. He needs to have an insane slipstream, and for Jarno to, again, just to have some issues with his DRS or something. So this is probably a very frustrating position for him to be in right now, and I know how much he wants to win. He wants to prove why he is the F1 Esports champion, which is, he certainly did last season, and he's starting to prove here once again. But a small luck up here, but let's see what the straight line speed is like again, because I do think the Alfa Romeo definitely has a straight line speed advantage, and I think you can just see that now. You can just see him just pulling away. He is not getting it anywhere near him, and he activates the DRS. Let's see what he does now. The DRS is depleted very quickly around this track, and you can just see exactly what I think the tactics are. The tactics are from Jarno Opmeer, that he is just going to sit there. He doesn't need to overtake him. Why would he even try and overtake him? Now, because if he does, he is just, he doesn't need to pull away from a group or anything, because they've already got a big gap to Enzo Benito behind. If he goes into the lead, all he's going to do is just deplete his ERS, his fuel. There is no benefit at all. The only benefit I can see about him being in the lead is, I think, following a car, especially with a little bit of the dirty air you have in this game, and when you're behind them, like going through the castle section, it might be easier to make mistakes, because you might understeer off. And if you make a mistake going to this type of corner that we're just going through right now, your race is over. So that is the only drawback, I think, of what Jarno's position is in right now, as Philippe Preschneider retires, unfortunately. He doesn't need to do anything, and I really hope next game that it doesn't reward you from sitting behind. I really would like it if the engine would severely overheat, your tires would burn up or something. I'd like it to be so that you're forced into trying to overtake, to make the overtake. That leading out in front should be the best position to be in. That's what I would really like to see. But you can see once again, it just looks like the Ferrari does not have the straight line speed. But now Jarno decides to overtake him now, because maybe he wants to just stretch it out a little bit. And Lucas now has the opportunity to save some ERS. And the strategy from Jarno, sometimes it is actually good to overtake at some points, because then it, like I did in my Mexico race when I was battling BMG Hawks recently, it's good to stretch your opponent, because I think if Lucas stayed in the lead and Jarno wasn't overtaking him, then Lucas might just decide to just save all his ERS. So Jarno wouldn't be benefiting from it, because Lucas would also be saving his ERS, because he knows that Jarno would not actually be overtaking him. So now Jarno, I think, will try and stretch him, try and deplete Lucas's ERS, and then let him go in the next couple of laps, and then hope in the last couple of laps, because he stretched him a little bit, that Jarno would have more ERS. So hopefully that makes sense. But that's the kind of strategy I try and do in my league races, and it works pretty well, because if it's clearly obvious that you're not going to overtake the leader, then the leader is not really going to push himself, and he's going to have the same performance advantage that you have going to the last lap. So this game is so crucial. If you have 20 or 30% more ERS than someone, it can just gain you so much time. It can make you attack them so much easier. But once again, David, I don't think is close enough. He is not close enough at all, and I really do feel that he's running quite a high downforce setup. I haven't seen his setup or anything at all, but you can just see the guys in front. When you're in this kind of position as well, even if you did have a very slippery car in a straight line, it's almost impossible, because the level that these guys are driving at, it's impossible almost to get past unless they make a huge mistake, or there's a mechanical failure or something like that. It's very difficult. And now, again, I hope this really showcases the level that you have to be at. And you can just see no one is coasting here or anything at all. You're still having to push flat out all the time. There is no mistakes involved. It is incredibly rare to see a mistake here. But you can see for this middle sector, he definitely gets closer, which again, I think confirms that he is running a slightly higher downforce setup than the two in front. First gear for the extra rotation, but almost losing the car. That's the problem with Dirty Air as well. Your car comes a little bit unsettled, but they're going so close to this wall here, taking a lot of curb on the entry and the exit, almost losing the car. But it's just through this last sector where you're mostly going flat out. This is where I feel we lose time, and you can just see it immediately straight away. He's just losing so much time in a straight line here, and the track position is key. If he could have got out ahead of these guys, then maybe he could have even potentially pulled away. If he had, if he broke the DRS, I think the first sector and second sector, due to his car setup, I think it would have been enough. And you can see the engine is now starting to overheat here, but I don't think it really causes too much penalty, because you see he's just losing so much time because of DRS that Lucas has in Jarno. And this is what happens if you have two cars ahead of you who are on pretty equal pace. They can just pull each other along whilst one person saves and the other person pushes and uses it, and then they swap. Then the guy in third is literally just a passenger, just an audience member, just watching. There's nothing he can do, and I can really feel the frustration that David is probably feeling right now. He's in a position where he can't really do anything whatsoever, so he needs to get as close as he can. As he does in this first and second sector, he always gets very close through these corners as well. Look at how much more apex speed that he is carrying through here. But you'll see for the last sector again, I think it's going to be a similar story. He just can't get close enough to that main straight, but this is the closest that he has been definitely so far. So he needs to up the aggression now. I know he wants to win this race. He doesn't want to come second or third. I know he wants to take the win, and no, This is the closest he gets, but he gets a little bit of a squiggly exit, but much closer this time compared to he was on the last lap. And let's see what he does now. He's managing his fuel and EOS pretty well, going through this corner, a very good exit, and this is definitely the closest he's been. Let's see if he can mount any sort of a challenge. Gets a very nice exit coming off this corner. Let's see what the straight line speed is going to be, but you can already see the Alfa Romeo is putting away. He does have a slipstream, but it seems that he has just a definitely, he just has a straight line speed advantage, and he's going to get the DRS. Is he going to make any inroads? No, he is not. It's still not close enough at all. But Lucas Blakey defends here, so this could be an opportunity that he's been waiting for, and he almost hits the back of the Alfa Romeo. He was starting a penultimate lap of this race here, going for his first sector. He's got to hope that they don't have a good exit, as I'm just eating my words here. But now they go start battling, and if I was Jarno, I would probably want to try and get ahead, and that's exactly what he is trying to do. And this is a good tactic by Jarno, because he's forcing Lucas to use the performance of his car. And I think if he can get him on this last lap, no, on the straight going into the last lap, he would probably have enough performance ERS advantage on the in store to defend on this last lap as well. So let's see what is going to happen here. Probably just as close as he was on the last lap, a little bit squiggly again, no threat from behind, and I think David is just going to throw everything at this. Now, I don't think he really matters if he crashes out or something. I think he really wants to get the win. You can see how hard he's trying. He's trying so hard to get on the throttle slowly, but once again, the straight line speed is just superior to the cars in front with the slipstream and the setup, I feel, as well. Now, he gets a very good exit. He's very good through his left-hander. He's trying to get as good exit as he can, not quite as good as the last lap, and I don't think he is going to be close enough here. So let's see if the Alfa Romeo, because he is quite far behind Lucas Blakey, but I think we'll see for the straight line speed as David is now deploying everything he can in his car here. Is Lucas going to defend once again? Yes, he does defend once again. So let's see what Jarno does on this occasion. Very similar to the previous lap here, and going into turn 2, let's see what happens here. And Lucas goes out wide, and this could now be the opportunity, almost hitting each other going into the wall, and Jarno Opmeer has gone into a lead. This is the opportunity for David Tonizza. He has to do this. He has to get this move done if he wants to win this race. He tries to go around the outside of Lucas Blakey. They're still going side by side, and all while this is helping Opmeer, making more and more contact. If he wants to win this race, he has to get into second place here, because he needs to DRS for the last straight. He gets the move done here, but Jarno has gained that gap, and let's see what the split is. We don't know what the actual split is. We're going to see, but it looks over a second to me. He needed to do that move much cleaner, but Lucas put up the fight, and unless Jarno makes a mistake, it's going to be very hard to beat him. He sees the opportunity, but Lucas just battled so hard here. Now, if he didn't battle, then he could have been in the DRS potentially, but I think with the Alfa straight line speed, I still feel it would have been a big ask. But now he has to focus on defending from the racing point here. As you can see, the gap is 1.4 seconds, so no, he is not going to get the DRS from the car here, but he has to defend from the racing point. But to be honest, you're pretty defenseless here. You've got to rely on your straight line speed. You can see his ERS is being very depleted, and the racing point is just going to sail past him. There is nothing he can do. It's like a Stroll and Bottas there coming across the line. He comes in P3, and no, well done to him. I don't think he really could have done any more. Maybe he could have gone for another extra lap or a couple of laps more potentially, but I think he did. I think he did make the right decisions. No, he drove really well, and yeah, nothing more you can do here. It is so hard in F1 Esports, and with the setup that I feel he was running, he really needed to have that track position. And since he didn't have that track position, he seized on the opportunity at the end, but it just wasn't quite enough. And no, thank you again for David for letting me use this footage. I hope this gives you a very good insight into F1 Esports. Apologies that this was a long video, but I always want to showcase what the real thing really does look like more F1 esports videos coming up very soon, along with many more videos on my channel. Once again, thank you so much for all the support I've had on my YouTube channel this year. It's been a year that I will never forget. I can say that safely. Again, thank you so much, and I'll catch you soon. Peace.